As retired and active police officers, we all know that you can buy gear from a lot of different places, especially online. But I want to remind you of the importance of supporting companies that support law enforcement. And I don't know a company that fits the bill more than Goals at goals.com. Their motto is proud to serve those who serve, which they do every single day. And they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focus organizations like Gold Shields. So when you're looking for gear, support our premier sponsor and go to goals.com. And for all our loyal listeners out there of the show, use the promo code GOLD15 for 15% off your next purchase until December 31st. That's right, all the way to the end of the year. Go to goals.com today.
Welcome to Gold Shields. Join NYPD veterans Tom Smith and Dan Murphy. With over 50 years of combined experience chasing drug lords, dismantling cartels, and hunting terrorists. Now they pull back the curtain, sharing raw, unfiltered stories from the front lines and the heroes who stood beside them. No topics off limits. This is real. This is true crime. This is Gold Shields.
Looking for powerful defense without the mess? Meet Impact, a revolutionary line of chemical irritants designed for law enforcement, military, and personal protection. With no blowback, no cross-contamination, and easy cleanup, Carry Impact delivers unmatched stopping power without the hassle. Whether you're in the field or on the street, safety should never be compromised. Protect yourself with the next generation of defense. Carry Impact, stopping power redefined. Have you ever wished you could go back in time and see the events that shape the true crime cases that fascinate you? With newspapers.com, it's like having a time machine to the past. Dive into more than 1 billion newspaper pages from 1690 to 2025 and relive the headlines that shocked entire towns. Explore newspapers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond with a simple search. Read the breaking news as it happened, crime scene reports, witness testimonies, and courtroom drama. Explore forgotten clues and see how the media shaped the narrative of infamous cases. But it's not just the major stories. Newspapers.com lets you dig into local mysteries, missing persons reports, and the small-town scandals that history forgot. It's the closest you can get to being there when it all unfolded. So, if you're ready to dig deeper into the crimes that keep you up at night, start your journey today at newspapers.com. Use the code GOLDSHIELDS for an exclusive 20% discount on your subscription.
Hey, welcome back. Gold Shields. This is Dan Murphy along with my partner in crime, Tom Smith. How are you today, pal?
I'm doing good, man. You know, it's the fall and summer's gone, which is
Yeah.
always horrible. But
And
holidays,
baseball's
all that
over.
good. Huh?
Yeah. Baseball's over.
Uh, kind of
Not even gonna go there.
thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of, it was a suffering month and a half, so
Yeah.
that's over. Noticed by my hat, who we're talking about, but
Exactly.
but everything else is good. We're having a good time.
Yeah. We have guests, a guest today that we're thrilled to have on. We're going to get to him in a second. But first, we always like to give a shout out to the people that help us keep the lights on, the folks that support us and sponsor us and put their faith in us. And principally among those is Goals.
Yeah, goals.com. They're in our corner. They're our premier sponsor. They take care of law enforcement, first responders better than anyone out there. And we're thrilled and honored to have them as our premier sponsor. But we also have an entire other family that takes care of us in tacticalgear.com and Streamlight and newspapers.com and Patriot Seltzer, another Navy SEAL. Jason Redman is a good friend of ours with his Patriot Seltzer. So we just thank them all for being part of this. And for everyone else out there, the support that they show and you show with tuning in every week, we really appreciate it. So keep it going on our YouTube channel and our audio channel and the GoldShieldShow.com website. So please continue to do that.
Tom, tell us about who we have today. Who's
Yeah,
our guest today? Can't wait to get to him.
We love having Navy SEALs on. We do. And here's why. Not just because they are who they are. And Dan and I just had a quick back and forth a little bit with our guests that Dan and I have such respect for the teams that to us, they're like the New York Yankees. They just are. They're a different breed. They're a different kind of fighter. They're a different human to go through and have the dedication that they have. Uh, but they all have a story. That's the best part. I mean, we've had so many Navy SEALs on, Dan, that each of them have another story of what they're doing or how they go from the highest level of military service you could do to personal life and private life.
Right, the next
Uh,
mission. Mhm.
and we got Cole Petrie on today, who is going to take us through his journey into the teams and afterwards and all that. And we got hooked up by a very dear friend, and we're going to get into that later. But Cole, it's an honor to have you on, sir, on Gold Shields. Welcome.
Tom, Dan, thank you so much. It's awesome to be here, and yeah, excited that get to talk about all this.
So where are you from? Where'd you grow up, and what brought you to the Navy SEALs? But first, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, Dan, I grew up outside of Portland, Oregon, in like Oswego, Oregon. Uh, pretty like amazing family, mom and dad, super supportive, and a brother that's 2 years younger. Did everything from getting outside all the time, did Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, all that. Um, Sports, football, wrestling, etc. And then really decided where I wanted to go to school. And I went to Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. And everyone asked, why'd you go to TCU? And I said, my story is like everyone from my high school went to University of Oregon or Oregon State. And I was like, I don't want to do high school again for another 4 years. So college was that time. It was like, hey, I can get out, go to the great state of Texas. And if I don't like it, I can always come back home and go to the University of Oregon. But went to TCU and absolutely loved it. Texas is an amazing place. The people there are awesome. And had a great time.
That you brought up a great point, and again, talking to so many other guys that we've had, all of them, I think, were athletes. And the transition from being a high level athlete into military service and law enforcement is so prominent. It happens so often because I think the team concept is what is the driving factor in that. And being successful in sports just transitions to military service and that team concept as you know better than us. But it's great hearing that because it always comes up with high level athletes becoming members of the military, like you did. And did you feel that played a part in what you were able to accomplish in the military and looking back on your sports and in
Uh,
college?
yeah, Tom, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm going to have to take that one back because I was not a star athlete at all in high school or college. Didn't play sports in college. Was just honestly, they say like the never quit. I was just like a try hard. I was like a good team player and like knew to never give up. And I think a lot of times you look at like something I say about the SEAL teams, like the best part of it is the people. And it's not because everyone's a Olympic athlete, it's because you have people from all different walks of life. You have your 18-year-olds just out of high school. You have your people that have run businesses, worked on Wall Street, master's degrees. And then I always say you have people that should probably be in jail. So you have this like vast array of
Well,
backgrounds.
Dan,
And then like,
that sounds familiar, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it does. It does. Sadly, it does. Yeah.
and you
God,
also
we
Um,
never
have
heard that before in the police department.
uh, only once at
you
30
also
times.
have
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. I'm glad it's similar with you guys, but you also have like guys that used to be fat in high school. Like I got a buddy that used to be fat and he showed us his fat pictures all the time. And he's like, yeah, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL and everyone thought I was crazy. And then he just started doing the thing, started working out consistently and then he made it happen. So you get guys from all walks of life. So not everyone's a rock star athlete. I just happen to slip through the cracks.
So there's one thing you mentioned too that you kind of glossed over, and I don't think it should be glossed over. It's a heck of an achievement is becoming an Eagle Scout. And those of us who were scouts recognize how much work, dedication, and focus it takes before age 18 to achieve that level. You got to have a congressperson on your side. You have to do civic service. There's all kinds of stuff involved in it. But that says a lot about you as a person. People who achieve that have a focus. And I think if you were to do a survey, there's a lot of people who were Eagle Scouts that went on to be very successful in whatever they went into. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. Yeah, that's super fair. It's I think it's setting a goal and accomplishing that goal. Like Eagle Scouts or scouting's great because it lays out like hey, these are the steps. You don't have to think. You just like, okay, I do these steps and then I become the thing. So it's great for people under the age of 18 to like follow the process. And if you do the little things and you check off all the boxes, like you will become this. And so it's ingrained in me for a long time.
So when does the decision get made to serve your country and to go into the Navy? And how was that decision, brought up? How did it come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was in college when I started thinking about it. I had a family friend that was a Vietnam team guy, and then another, acquaintance from back home that joined the teams, and so kind of was interested in it, but didn't really take action. Ended up moving to Denver right after college and working in commercial real estate, which was interesting. I liked it, but there was this guy Trent that would walk in my office. He was 65 years old and was stressed out of his mind every day, and I was like, "That's going to be me in 40 years if I don't do something else." So at that point, I kind of made the decision, like, okay, let's go for this and see how it goes.
So when you went in to the Navy, how old were you when you enlisted?
Gosh, it was 20. I was 23.
Okay, and you had your college
23.
degree already.
Yeah, I had my college degree, so I went the officer route, and NSW does it. Naval Special Warfare does it interesting where you go to what's called SEAL Officer Assessment and Selection, otherwise known as SOAS. So I was a civilian. I was working my, suit and tie job on Friday, and then I showed up to Coronado on a Sunday. And you spend that first week doing physical training and the second week doing psychological training. So one, I came in from Denver, so I had the altitude on my side. Um, and it's really interesting. It's a super high risk thing, throwing civilians into pretty intense training right off the bat, but I did well and got selected and then went to officer candidate school in November of 2015.
That that's not a normal thing. Yeah. you, most guy, all right, let me go enlist. You walk into the recruiting station, you do your thing, they pitch where you want to go and you get it done. But to have that focus of what you had to do, and I went to Coronado on the weekend, and trained. I mean, that's not the normal story we hear. And that's what I said in the beginning of this. It's, you guys who go through this have these wild stories about getting to where you got to and getting there and how you got to that position. That's just phenomenal. So so you get all that done. When does Bud start?
Yeah, I started Buds in the spring of 2016. My first class was 319. And I actually I got a performance role in Hell Week, Wednesday of Hell Week. And there's this instructor, everyone around my time knows him, but just like super evil dude. Like, like, oh man, this guy hates me. And I got sick. I ended up, or hypothermic or whatever. You do like a med check in some morning starting Tuesday. So then Wednesday I got a med check. And I remember looking at the temperature after he took it and it said like 92. And I was like, man, that's pretty cold. And the guy just said, nah, that's not right. And then wrote down 97.8 on my sheet and let me go. And then I got to on the chow run. So you run with the boat everywhere. On the chow run to lunch, just fell apart. Complete soup sandwich. They take my temperature. It's like 78 degrees, 75 degrees. And they're having me sit in like a puffy jacket and a beanie outside the chow hall. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, you're pretty cold right now. And then they're like, you have to chow run back to get, to stay with your class. And I couldn't hang. I fell apart. So I made it to Wednesday, which is like honestly the hump day of Hell Week. And they pulled me. So I ended up going to what's called PTRR, physical training, rest and rehabilitation for a couple, like I think 2 classes. And that was honestly some of like the darkest times of my life because you see all your friends that make it through. You're pretty beat up. You like almost made it through, and then I had to wake up every day and go do you do your runs, your swims, your O courses. But I would wake up and say like I'm over this. Like I don't want to do this anymore. And I just told myself like put your boots on and get outside and go. So during that, I think it was 3 months, I put on 20 pounds. It was crazy. I would go to work every day and work out, doing our runs, swims, O courses, PTs, etc. I'd go to the galley, eat as much food as I could. I ended up getting the biggest spoon I could find and just shoveling food into my mouth. And then I'd go to the gym on North Island and I'd work out for an hour and a half. Then I'd hit McDonald's. Then I'd go home and eat another dinner. But I was able to put on 20 pounds in the span of 3 months. And that really made the difference in my next class.
So the weight insulated you is what you're saying.
Yeah, insulated me and it just helped with like longevity. Yeah, the cold, but then also just strength on everything. The only time where I was like, this is going to be a problem was that first PT on Monday morning. You're doing a ton of calisthenics and my arms blew up. You know, when you get that feeling where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do anymore. They blew up on like the last rep and they're like, all right, go to breakfast. Now, thank God. Um, yeah, but then ever since then, that that was such a blessing in disguise getting performance rolled because I took my next class with like a completely different mindset. Uh, and I think the mindset that was required, and it was just pretty cutthroat. And I didn't want to make friends with anyone in case they weren't pulling their weight and they needed to go away. So I really just made friends with guys that were my boat crew. And it was awesome. It was such a great experience.
That's cool. What I want you to do, Cole, if you can, we've had, like I said, other team members on, but for the people who don't really know, explain Hell Week. Like people have heard us say it and heard guests say it, and we kind of just assume everyone knows what it is. But just take a minute and explain what that insanity is for that week.
Yeah. So it's cool. I've got to experience Hell Week on both sides, once going through, or one and a half times going through it, and then probably 5 times working it. But Hell Week starts on Sunday. So you wake up Sunday morning and then around sometime in the afternoon, you go sit in a tent and you wait for breakout. And breakout, there's a bunch of blank automatic machine guns, a bunch of, smokes and just a bunch of noise and chaos. So that starts Sunday night. And then you're awake through Friday morning. You get 2 naps with a span of 2 hours. You're carrying a boat everywhere with you on your head with a boat crew of 6 or 7 people. And you're on the move. You're just on the go. You get to sit down for probably 35 to 45 minutes during chow, uh, 4 times a day. So every 6 hours. But you're just going nonstop, go, go, go.
Wow. Okay. So, you know, that sort of level of physical activity, I've seen specials on it and we've talked to people. Caloric intake is vitally important to making it through that week, isn't it? I mean, you've got to eat because you're burning so many calories. What's a typical daily calorie burn for a Hell Week person?
Gosh, they probably know the actual number, but that was one of my downfalls in my first class is I wouldn't eat enough. They give you these disgusting cold MRE entrees. So my second class, I just made it my goal. I'd eat like 8 or 9 entrees until you could get to the galley. Like eventually later on in the week, you go eat at the galley. But I was just inhaling these entrees like it was no one's business. Um, and then also what do they give you? They give you like they give you some drug to help with infection. But one of the side effects you learn later is drowsiness. So they tell you like, oh yeah, hey, take this pill. It's gonna help, if you get infected. And so my second class, I was just like, okay, and then I'd like throw it under the boat or whatever.
Okay, falling asleep during that is not the ideal situation when there's an
No.
instructor over you. But that's and again, it's something that's not the norm. I mean, Hell Week we've heard from everyone. When I think we had Hector Delgado on, and said one of his best friends just snapped his leg on one of the rocks during Hell Week, and his legs in two pieces. He's like, no, I'm fine. And they're like, no, you're not, dude. No, I'm okay. I'll make it. And had to like kind of physically get pulled off the rocks to stop him from going on. And, because I think all of you understand what it is and what's at stake and what you're representing and what you're trying to achieve. And, I don't know if you get too many second chances at that. And I think that's what everyone's mindset is. And that's the push to go. And I'm sure you can attest to this that you're amazed what your body can do and what you can push yourself to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There was a great buddy of mine. We're still amazing friends today. We're in the same boat crew. But the week before Hell Week started, we're doing boat crew races at night on the beach, and we hear this loud pop, and he just goes, "I think I just tore my hamstring."
Oh,
And we finish we finished the race. We get back that night, and he's like, his hamstring. He like popped his hamstring. He finished all Hell Week the next week, and then the 2 weeks or 3 weeks after Hell Week, and then he did the first 4 mile run in second phase, and then he went to the doc there, and Buzz was like, I tore my hamstring, and he got rolled for a class to rehab it. But I think that just shows like the mindset of people there is like, I don't care what's in my way, I'm just going to push through it.
That's an amazing mindset that, you really have to develop. It's a muscle, right? It can't I don't know that you're born with that. Some people are, but, we've heard so many stories, and it's interesting how they mess with you to try to get you to ring the bell, right? Tell us some of the tactics and the things that they do, the psychological way that they try to tempt you into letting yourself out of that.
Yeah. So I'll share a story and it kind of goes full circle. So that guy, that instructor I shared with you that everyone, is like would know who it is, and he's an evil human being. Um, and he had some tactics, and his thing is he would just talk to you. And I remember my first class, he would talk to me like during a hell week and was like, to say the stuff to basically make you quit. You're not pulling weights, blah, 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 blah. And you really start to think like, dude, this guy, he hates me. Anyways, 6 years, 7 years later, he's my chief when I'm running SEAL officer assessment selection, and we're still great friends to this day. He was out here in Idaho a few weeks ago. Um, but there was a kid that just did not have what it took, and my chief was like, "Hey, just give me 5 minutes." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Just give me 5 minutes." And he went and talked to the kid, and, like, the kid was sitting down, and he comes back. I was like, "How'd it go?" He's like, "It's fine." He's like, "Give it 10 minutes, the kid will quit." Like, I'm not kidding you, 10 minutes later, the kid came up and was like, "Hey, I'm done." And so it's a lot of mind games. Like, we could push people physically, like, you can beat someone or PT someone until they're puking or can't go anymore, but it's really a mind game. And once someone plants that seed of doubt in someone's head of, "Hey, you can't do this, you don't belong here," the people that aren't strong-willed, they'll let that spread and quit. And, I hear people that say, "Oh, I never once thought about quitting Buzz." I'll tell you what, like, I woke up every morning, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna go back to bed." Uh, so I really think the difference is just that people like what's different between me and someone else that quit is that I can talk myself out of any negative self-talk that I have in my head. I say, "Okay, do a quick reality check, like, everything's fine, I'm good, let's keep going." Whereas the person that quit, that builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it's too much for 'em.
Yeah, we've heard that too. Other guys we've had on, like, hey, do you ever kind of wonder what the hell you doing here? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? They're like, oh damn, every hour, every hour that popped into my head. When you're shivering uncontrollably because you're so cold, of just going, wait a minute, hot shower, nice bed. What am I doing? But the special ones get through, and the special ones do exactly what you just said. Uh, the one thing I want to touch on, before we'll move away from buds, but you know, there's a lot of people don't understand when you graduate buds, you're not a SEAL yet, right? There's other things that need to be done before you get your trident, right?
Yeah, totally. So you go through officers, the class splits at that point. So officers go to junior officer training command for 2 months, and then the enlisted guys join the forward class of state officers and go through SEAL qualification training. So I went to junior officer training command for 2 months and then joined up with the class behind me, and went through SEAL qualification training, SQT. And that's where we went to Alaska for cold weather training and SEER. You do land warfare training, close quarters combat training, MAROPS, so you're doing diving, you're driving boats around, um, jumping out of airplanes. Like, you're learning all the skills uh, to become a SEAL, and it's probably one of the most fun times you'll have in your life.
Because you get to do stuff as a little kid you wish you could do before you knew how dangerous it was, probably, right?
Yeah, it's like SQT. There's really not a lot of pressure. You're not. You're kind of like the upperclassman, if you will. So you're not in a SEAL platoon where you're a new guy and like, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, but you're in the training command. You're like top of the totem pole. You go out on the weekends and it's like 15 to 20 of your best friends that go into a bar and you're like, this is awesome. And then you get to do a bunch of fun trainings. It's a very fun time where you don't have any responsibilities except to show up, work out, and do the training. It's a great time.
When you actually finish Hell Week, when you're done, that minute that you're done, I've heard stories about how you eat. like what they give you to eat. Somebody said something like 2 pizzas and a bunch of Gatorade or something, just because people are so hungry at that moment. You're physically exhausted, but you're so hungry and you're sandy and you're cold. What is that like?
Yeah, some people have experience, like, I remember guys, like, crying when we got secured or, like, so elated and so happy. I remember sitting there and honestly just being like, "This is so gay." Fuck. I'm serious. Like, you're listening to I forget the admiral that secured us, but I'm sitting there being like, "Dude, can you please stop?" And, anyways, you shake everyone's hand. There's a storytelling night on Wednesday at Camp Surf, and I told some story that would probably be a true story, probably inappropriate for this show. But someone came up to me like in '05 and was like, "Hey, great story Wednesday night." And they, you forget. I'm like, "Huh?" And it wasn't until like a couple days later, I was like, "Oh my gosh, oops." Um, but yeah, you finish up, you go get your pizza and Gatorade, and then a lot of guys pass out. I couldn't fall asleep. I think my body was still on. I could eat a little bit, but I just remember sitting outside in a chair being like, okay, like I can't fall asleep. I'm just sitting here. But yeah, guys go about it differently.
So you're done with everything. You get your trident, which is the most known, I think, symbol around, so revered in the world. Uh, and you get deployed. I think you go to Iraq. But at that point in the world, it's a different deployment than earlier, like after 9/11 and so on and so forth. Do you get, not that you're frustrated, but is it a different mindset of, wow, we're not doing the same stuff that they were doing in the past? Does that kind of get to you of the different mission that you had in Iraq at that time?
Yeah, totally. So I deployed my platoon deployed to UAE, and then from there I joined a platoon in Iraq about 2 months into deployment. And yeah, it was just a different time. Like you join a lot of guys join the military, join the SEAL teams or any special operations forces because they hear the stories, they read the books, they see these things on TV, and that you think you're going to be kicking down doors doing all that stuff. And the time that I was there, it just wasn't like that. It was I got to go out a handful of times, but you'd wrap up the guy and then you'd turn him over to the Iraqis and he'd be, out of prison a few weeks later. Um, and they wouldn't fight back. And so we'd just roll up and like they wouldn't fight, they wouldn't have guns. Like it was just a really interesting time. And I was there in 2019, came home for a few months and then got to go back out with another SEAL team. And it was so funny because I remember going through some intel packets and some guys like, "Oh, this guy's on our target list." And I'm like my platoon went out and got this guy 5 months ago. Like, why are we going out and getting him again? Like, this is just it. It just was a different time, and it was yeah, just hard to swallow sometimes.
So these targets are being turned over to the Iraqi criminal justice system per se?
Yeah, basically. But they're so interconnected there that they're like, "Hey, pay me X amount and we'll get you out of here."
Sounds like New York.
Cash, no bail, no cash bail.
Right.
No bail, free.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Come back. Promise you'll come back. The
Right.
honor system.
The
When's my
honest
court
yeah.
date? When's my court date? Okay, I'll be there. No problem. Gotcha.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
man.
So
Yeah, I can't
that's
imagine.
you're doing that. That's got to be frustrating. But by the same token, you're a duty bound person. You're doing what the mission is. Whatever the mission is, it gets given to you. Um. So you do that for 2 deployments. You said basically.
It was a deployment and then an augment, so I went back shortly after for 2 months stint.
Then you come home. And what does home look like after that? Are you still an operator?
So the officer career path, I say, is the biggest secret to buds, because you're sold this like, hey, you're going to be out, you're going to be operating in your head. You're like, I'm going to be at a SEAL platoon like the next 15 years of my life. But the officer career path is something they really hide from you throughout buds, or at least when I went through the program. I think guys know more about it now, but as an officer, you do a SEAL platoon or two, and then you go to a disassociated tour. So you're away from the SEAL platoon. You're doing either an administrative type role, or you might be a special reconnaissance team or special boat team, um, or SEAL delivery vehicle. So there are some guys that are able to still operate in some capacity for a little bit, but I went to an administrative role and then ended up at the center running SEAL officer assessment selection.
Okay, that's so now you're into who's gonna kind of go into what you were doing in the selection process. That becomes interesting because you have a different mindset and different outlook of what you used to have of who should be there and who shouldn't be there. Right. So how was that doing that and becoming, from running around and being sandy and jumping in the water and carrying boats to now being a boss in making those selections? How was that?
Yeah, so we were in charge of putting everyone through the training, collecting all the data, and then all that data would go to a selection board full of master chiefs and commanders and captains that would ultimately make the selection. So it was amazing to be a part of it. I'm super glad I was a part of it, and knowing that those guys that went through during those few years are in the SEAL teams now. It was just super rewarding. And you look at the things we judged. We looked at character, people's competence, their physicality, and their leadership. Those are kind of the four traits we would grade people on. We graded on a GPA scale, so 0 to 4. And throughout the summer, over 3 courses, we collected over 20,000 data points. And so all of the grading was super objective, and it allowed the selection board to really see numerically like who stood out and who didn't, and then also peer reviews, et cetera. But it was amazing to be a part of that. And it felt like in a way of giving back and being able to make a difference in the future of NSW while I was about to transition out.
Okay, let's talk about that. That's the next thing to get on, and it's an important topic because whether you're military or law enforcement or virtually anything in life that has a shelf life, you have to transition. You have to move on to something else. Tell us about when you left, what it felt like to no longer be a SEAL, and what was. Tell us about that time in your life.
Yeah, it was tough. I had a great transition period. So my first kid was born, and so they gave you 90. I had 90 days off, and then after that, I had Skill Bridge where you can go work for someone for 4 months, and then I had 2 months of terminal leave. So I had 9 months of time to think about what I was doing. I was getting out. So we knew we were going to move up to Idaho. Uh, I think it was 2 weeks before getting out. Like I honestly was a mess. Like my wife had never really seen me cry, and like there were a few days where I was definitely cried, and like my wife was like, "Are you okay? Like, should we stay in the military? Like, is this a bad decision?" And um, I respect her and so thankful to be married to her because of that, because she was willing to like, "Hey, no, let's stay in. Like, this means a lot to you." But once we started driving up to Idaho, and once we got here, I was like, "Okay, it was a good decision." But it's a really tough time for anyone because you go from one being around your tribe or your gang. You have a platoon and it's just a bunch of meat eaters, and then you have the wives and girlfriends who like understand the community and understand the culture. So to lead that is just difficult, and I'm sure you guys experience the same thing in NYPD.
Yeah, listen, that time comes where it's time to go, and I get asked all the time. Dan gets asked all the time, like, how do you go through it? How is the reaction, or how do you feel afterwards? And I tell people all the time, it's like walking forwards for 30 years and someone telling you got to walk backwards. It's weird. It's going to take a little while, but you'll eventually get it. But we all face that time. So let's go through that, Cole, with saying goodbye to the military and what you were able to go into afterwards. And that's the one good thing. And I said this at the beginning of the show, especially team guys, there's always something they get into, that is a benefit to either their community or law enforcement or first responders or victims or whatever it is. You guys always find that niche to take the experiences you have and the your past and what you've learned and pass it on into another organization. So what did you do? What was your look like when you got out?
Yeah. So I got super lucky. It was just, I believe I put my full faith in God and Jesus Christ, and believe God is sovereign over everything. And a few weeks before I was moving, my mom actually forwarded me an email, and it was from this organization, Higher Ground, up here in Idaho. and they said, "Hey, we're looking for an executive director, CEO." And so I called the board chair, and his number was nowhere online, but I'm pretty good at finding people's information from my time in real estate and time in the Navy. So I found this guy's cell phone, and I said, "Hey, I'm Cole. This is my background. I heard you guys are looking." And his first response is, "Who are you, and how'd you get my phone number?"
Mhm.
So I ended up, he's like, "Just send me a resume." So I sent him my resume. I had about 8 or 9 interviews. My first interview was on Zoom. I was in my truck as the movers were moving stuff out of our apartment. And then came up here to Idaho and had a few more in-person interviews, but had 8 or 9 interviews and got hired on with this organization, Higher Ground. And what Higher Ground does is they do recreational therapy for veterans, first responders, and individuals with disabilities. So it really aligned with kind of everything I believed in.
That's something we've seen too. We've interviewed other members of the teams and other special operators, tier one level, who've gone into selfless things that are meant to help other people. And like Tom said before, we laid it all out, but it's all about service. You guys are service minded first, and you're mission oriented first. Um, and that's the kind of thing that we love to highlight on the show is the fact that you may think if you leave a career in the military or law enforcement that life of yours is done. But we take oaths, and we take those oaths seriously, and that's a lifelong oath. There's no expiration on it. So if you're lucky enough to find a place to channel that passion for mission and for service, then you're very lucky indeed, and it sounds like you did. Um, so you're no longer with them, are you? You've transitioned away from that to something else, I think you're moving into.
Yeah, so transitioned away from Higher Ground. Um, and I'm a huge supporter of Higher Ground, huge supporter of the mission of Higher Ground. I think part of that transition story is it's hard. One, it's hard transitioning out of the military, but it's especially hard transitioning from a special operations unit directly to a nonprofit. And, coming from either your guys' line of work or my line of work in the military, I was used to working with people that are very competitive, um, people that are highly motivated, and people that are used to making deliberate decisions at a fast pace. And, uh, it was tough because some people at Higher Ground just couldn't keep up. And I was told to, operate at 60% speed. And when I was told that, I was kind of laughing because in my head, I was like, "Oh man, I'm already operating at 50% speed right now." So some people just couldn't keep up. Um, but I have the utmost respect for those people. In the 18 months that I was there, we were able to increase the number of participants we served by 20%. I think we increased the number of veterans we served by over 30%. And we increased the number of first responders served by over 60%. So we made drastic increases and difference in the people we served. And so I'm confident that Higher Ground can continue that trajectory of growth.
That's so great.
Similarly, when it comes to my transition, just one of the things I just want to point out is in New York, when Tom and I were at the department, we were so busy. There was no time to shelve things. Like if you got a case or you got an assignment, it wasn't like, I'll get to it. No, no, you had to do it like right away because there was another one, another one. And so you get very good at being quick with things and getting things done, making decisions, doing things, taking action. And then you go into corporate America, and well, first of all, my definition and yours of an emergency is very different than corporate America's version of an emergency. Their idea of an emergency can be something as simple as, oh, we're late for the meeting, or there's the vice president needs this spreadsheet by 1 and it's a quarter after. And I look at that and I go, wait a minute, where's the crime scene? If there's no crime scene and no fire, we don't have an emergency, my friend. We don't have an emergency. We have something to me is far less. And that was a real mindset shift for me. And it took me years to get over that feeling that these people around me were running around for nothing. And in their mind, it was something. To me, it was a little something, not a big something, right?
Yeah, totally. The things that people get stressed about, I don't think people should get stressed about.
Right.
Um, and then, the opposite when it comes time to, I think what I loved about the military is once a decision was made, everyone, no matter what their thoughts are, were on the decision, moved everything out of the way to execute on that decision. And it was just the military in a sense is kind of a beautiful place in that regard. Like my chief at SOAS, who was that evil instructor I had in Buds, I would say like, "Hey, we need to do X, Y, and Z," and he'd just look at me and be like, "I got it." And I trusted him, and I knew that he would just get it done. And I don't care how he got it done. If he did something wrong or blurred the lines a little bit, but it would get done, and I could trust him to do that. And then if he needed something or a roadblock got in the way, let's say it was someone at supply or some support personnel, that's where I could come in and be like, "Hey, you need to let my guys do their job."
Right.
So the
That's
military
lead.
and first responder is a special place.
Yeah, and
Good,
the
man.
best leaders are those who clear the path for their people to do it. And one of the things I loved about Tom, and I was his supervisor in 2 different places, which is really kind of a misnomer because I just consider myself a fellow detective, but he was the kind of guy, something needed to get done. He wasn't s he didn't go get a cup of coffee and sit down and talk about it. He's like, he's in the car already, going to go do it. And that's one of the reasons we clicked. I was like, "He gets it. He gets it." There's not only an urgency, but there's an importance, and it's an
We had
emergency to somebody.
yeah, you talk about the importance. We had still there like our front desk admin staff at Higher Ground. She's a rock star. And if she would have been in the SEAL team, she would have crushed it. Because you could say, "Hey, like, I need this done." And she just like, "Yep, got it." And then like a week later, she's like, "Hey, it's done." And I'm like, "How'd you do that?" She's like, "I had no idea how to get done, but she just asked questions and it got stuff done." And that was it was so refreshing. There are those select people that are just like, "Hey, no problem, I'll get it done. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'll figure it out." And that's worth a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's priceless. Then when you get the people like Dan just said, "Hey, yeah, we could do that after lunch." No, bro, no. That used to drive me crazy with, "We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it after lunch," whatever. But what do you see you dealing with military, law enforcement, first responders? What do you see as the biggest challenge leaving what they've done for more than half their life and going into something different? What do you see their biggest challenges as, or obstacles that you have seen them try to get past?
Yeah, it's I think it really starts when you're in it, but your identity is wrapped up in your job. And like I said earlier, like my identity is in Christ and my faith in Jesus Christ, and it's not in being a SEAL. That doesn't mean I don't give my job as being a SEAL 1,000% every time, and I'm super squared away. It just means when someone says, "Hey, this is Cole," it's not instantly like, "Hey, this is Cole. He's a SEAL." It's like, "Oh no, this is Cole, the person." And I think that really helps in the transition space and where a lot of people struggle is the people where their full identity is wrapped up in their job. And what's brutal and it's hard is the train, and I call the train as like the first responders or the military, like the train moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour and it's not going to stop when you get off. It's not even going to slow down and say, "Hey, Cole, thanks for your service." Like you get off and then you still hear stories of, I'm sure you guys still hear stories about guys going on cases or guys doing X, Y, and Z. Like I was just talking to a buddy. He's like, "Dude, I was on this awesome training trip." It just keeps going. And if your identity is wrapped up in that, can feel left behind. So what I think the best thing that people can do when they get out is really, if their identity was wrapped up in their job, look internally and say, "Hey, who am I as a person? And what are my values as a person?"
Yep.
I think Go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry. Uh, the one thing that I notice, and it's in the military and it's in law enforcement, first responders too, guys, girls don't give themselves enough credit with what they know and the experiences that they have to pass on to others. They just, we've heard, Dan, we've heard it. Oh, I was a cop. No, dude, you weren't just a cop. Just go back in your brain of what you've learned over those X amount of years and pass that on, to the younger kids. But I think cops and guys in the military just don't give themselves enough credit in what they can offer, the next generation or a private company, and all that. And Dan's an example of that too. You take Dan's experience in what he did in the NYPD and then becoming, the chief security officer for US Bank, because he was able to take all that experience and give it to a company to make it better. And I think guys and girls need to just kind of take stock of themselves a little more and what they can offer.
I think it's well said, Tom. And military law enforcement, you're problem solvers. you're task oriented, you're mission oriented, you're team players, you're communicators. You are so many things that the private sector desperately needs. You have so many and you've been living it. And you're right, they just don't know how to feel confident about it. And sometimes they harp on the wrong things. I have 56 medals and I made 200 gun collars and I was the cop of the month. Nobody cares. What can you do? What skills do you have? Not what accomplishments, how many awards you got. Don't care about that. What skills do you have? Can you communicate? Can you look a person in the eye, have a conversation? Um, can you be open-minded and willing to learn, right? Coachable. Are you coachable? Are you teachable? Those are things that are valuable and vital when you leave anything. So you can't just walk around saying, I was this rank in the police department and make a role for me. Nobody does, nobody cares. It's interesting. It is a great equalizer. There's people that came out, and once I got, I guess I got very fortunate. I got senior VP level at U.S. Bank, and they had a great role. And I had a lot of people say, "You were just a sergeant in the NYPD." Well, yeah, but I mean, okay, I worked and I put my head down, and I got here because during my interview process, they didn't ask me about my rank. U.S. Bank couldn't have cared less. What can you do for us? And everybody has to focus on that, right? And they have to follow your heart. You have to follow your passion. What is it you want to do that's gonna make you wanna get out of bed, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's the passion piece, and then also in the transition space, know that your first job out of the military doesn't your first job in the first place you live doesn't have to be that for the rest of your life. And I'm in that space right now where I transitioned away from higher ground. I'm looking at what's next, and there's a I got a bunch of exciting opportunities. One of them's with a group called Skyline Defense and doing shooting instruction and executive protection, and then another is working with a large construction builder up here and working on some large developments up here in the valley. It's like, life takes different twists and turns, and I think that's one thing that's great coming from a first responder or military background is you can adapt and change your skill sets to different jobs as they come.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I want to do, and you just kind of reminded me of it. I want to give a shout out to the individual who hooked us all up and his organization, Swim with a Mission, and Phil Taub. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who just embraces every single part of military families and Gold Star families and survivors and veterans. It's Phil. Your participation or your knowledge of Swim with a Mission is what got us together. So we thank Phil for that. But talk about his organization a little bit.
Yeah, so Swim with a Mission is an amazing cause. So I think Phil's a lawyer. Is that right? Lawyer by trade? Yeah. So I don't know how he got involved in starting his organization or initially, but what they do is they raise money and they give it to veteran service organizations that align that are basically squared away. Their financials are squared away. Most of their funds go directly back towards the veterans and first responders. I think recently I saw on their website to date they've given away over $11 million to different veteran service organizations. And I remember the first time I talked with Phil and Julie, and I realized that they don't do this full time. They do it on their side on the side because they really care about veterans and first responders. It was truly eye-opening, and those people are all around the country. People that truly care about veterans and first responders, and quite honestly, it's super important. What they do is amazing because people trust them. There's a lot of scam nonprofits out there, and then there's a handful that aren't. And for Higher Ground, for example, 88 cents of every dollar went directly to our programs. I think the Navy SEAL Foundation is something like high 90s that goes directly to programs. But what Swim with a Mission does, so I think it's swam.org. They basically do the filtering process for like a donor. So they'll get money from donors and then they go through the process themselves of looking at like, hey, does this nonprofit meet our criteria? Is the mission aligned with what we do? Are they fiscally responsible? And does it make an impact on veterans and first responders? And if it does, then they give money to those organizations.
Amazing.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, you know, Tom, we are always blessed to have amazing guests, and today is no exception. We are very proud to have met you, and I think that I think great things lie ahead for you, Cole. I honestly do because just your attitude, your energy. I just think so many people are out there who are going to be touched positively by you and people like you. And thank you for sharing your story of your transition. And I see great things for you, and I want to stay in touch with you. I'm very happy to have made your acquaintance today and call you a friend. You're an inspirational person. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening right now who are going to take something from this. And I think one of the most important messages is that you can do anything you set your mind to if you set your mind to it and are determined to do it. And don't give up. You had setbacks, but you pursued and continued. And also, transitions are not something to be feared. They should be embraced and they should be taken for what they are. But never forget who you are and what you have to offer. Don't get yourself so wrapped up in a profession or a career that that becomes who you are, because then when you leave it, you have nothing. But maintain who you are in something more important, more deep, right?
Yeah, 100%. If I can give two kind of shout outs, if you guys are interested, whoever's listening, go to swam.org and sign up to be a recurring donor. And then also highergroundusa.org, be a recurring donor. Those are just two organizations that they care about first responders and veterans, and they do a good job fiscally and on their program side. So thank you.
We'll have those those websites up, on the show notes and all the social media posts as well. And we've, Phil's getting quite a read on a lot of our shows with guests he's given us. So Swim with a Mission's been on a few of ours already. So I'll just find the other one, cut and paste it, put it on. It's good. Uh, but you're right. It's just, it's great to have people out there that weren't involved, but found it important to be involved because of who, are serving this country. And they really take that and embrace it. And, I agree with Dan. You got a very bright future. You're so well spoken and passionate and patriotic and want to do the right things, not just for you, but for others who are in our world and in your world that need just that little push to understand that there's something out there for them. And you're going to land on your feet for sure. And we're going to stay in touch because when you do land on your feet and you do get that spot, we're going to know about it. We're going to let everyone know about it as well. So Cole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, Tom, Dan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Our pleasure. Tom, take us out. We'll go to OT, but yeah, phenomenal. Very, very inspirational.
Yeah, just one of those really feel good shows. We do some that are hard. We've struggled through a couple of shows this year with tough topics, and it's good to do a feel good one every once in a while with someone like Cole and the outlook he has after military service and in the military as well. So at this point in the show, we always say a prayer and thank God for our law enforcement officers, our military vets, and pray for their families because their families serve just as much as they do. And they need our prayers, they need our support, and don't ever forget about them. We say it all the time. You see a cop on the street, you wave to him in a car, pat a service member on the back in a store. Dan says this all the time, buy him a cup of coffee. He's behind you in line, buy his lunch for him or her.
Give
'Cause
up
you
your
know what?
first class seat on the plane for a military person in uniform.
Absolutely.
Have a little decency. Show an act of kindness for somebody who would lay down their life for your freedoms, right?
No doubt. No doubt. Great message. And we just keep them all in our prayers for that. So, with that, for Cole Petrie, an amazing guest and an absolute patriot to this country, and we all thank him for his service. My partner, Dan Murphy, this is Tom Smith for Gold Shields. Don't go anywhere. We got overtime coming up, and we'll see everyone in a minute.
When it comes to the safety of law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel, every moment counts, especially in the dark. Streamlight provides the reliable, high-performance lighting solutions that these heroes trust in the most dangerous situations, whether it's a car stop, navigating dark alleyways, or exploring abandoned buildings. With Streamlight by their side, Our heroes can tackle challenges with confidence, knowing they have the power of advanced lighting technology to guide them. From the first responders on the front lines to the law enforcement officers ensuring our safety, Streamlight is there to make every mission a little easier and much safer. Join us in supporting those who protect us. Visit streamlight.com to discover how you can be part of the team keeping our heroes safe. Because when they shine, we all shine.
Patriot is a premium whiskey hard seltzer. We've carefully crafted 4 flavors that not only taste exceptional, but can be enjoyed on any occasion, anytime. We're committed to giving back 5% of all profits to the core groups we call the backbone of America. We are proud to help those who serve our great country. This is America's Seltzer, the brand that stands for quality, community, and the American spirit.
As promised, we're back with the OT, the overtime. Cops love overtime, don't they, Tom?
They do. It's just there's so much good about it, but I think our overtime is just so much better.
Absolutely. Well, consider how much overtime you made trying to sleep in a chair at the courthouse at 100 Center Street waiting to see a DA with your arrest. Blood money. That was blood money overtime.
You know what? There was one time before we get to this. I think the most proud I ever was, I think in 2010, 2011, I think I was 5th in the city
In
in
overtime?
OT. Yeah. That was a nice hit. That was a not happy email I got from the boss, but but it was all legit. I mean,
Yeah,
I was all over the place, those 2
yeah.
years. But that
Good
was
for
pretty
you.
cool. I never accomplished that before. That was pretty neat. But anyway,
There's
here
a
we
saying in
go.
a police department, you don't wanna be the number 1 or the bottom of any list.
All
You just
right.
don't. But,
Exactly.
overtime. Yeah, well, you know what? We just had the opportunity to have a great discussion with somebody who I respect enormously, who's just a very, very decent, hardworking person, who's an example of what America's best is when they come to the military, and, a guy like him who made it to the US Navy SEALs and who excelled at it and who is now taking the things he learned and benefiting others.
Yeah. I mean, they're just special people, not just in the SEALs, but any special operator in any of the armed forces. They're wired different. It's just a different mentality. It's a different mindset of what they have to go through and the grueling training they go through, and then to come out on top. But you listen to Cole, and it wasn't all about that with him. Like he said, the blood and guts and firefighting, blah 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 is all cool, but he was like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah.
Like, all right,
No.
let me make sure I do A, B, and C the right way and develop people and when he got into the selection people, selecting the right people. So,
Yeah.
you have that as well.
Well, he candidly admitted to us before the call. He said, "Look, I don't have, Operation Red Wing or anything like that. I went in at a different time." He was over there in a different time, but he was over there at an important time nonetheless. And, you can just tell by talking to him and looking at him that he's a squared away kinda guy whose head is on straight, who's got a work ethic, and he's a mission kind of person, and, we need that in this country. He's a leader, and, it's just such a pleasure to see people like him out there continuing to give back and trying to find the next niche that he's gonna get into where he can do that.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he's going to be successful somewhere, where he lands. And he went over a couple of things with us. He's got so many opportunities, what he's going to accomplish, and like I said, he understands what he has to offer, and that insight into military and law enforcement, first responders, of what's needed at the next phase in your life. There's a point you turn the page. I don't care who you are. There's a point where you've done your due diligence, you've done your mission, and it's
Right.
time to move on. And he provides that and gives that, information to people that there's something out there. It's there for you. Just go do it.
Right, find your purpose, right? You never wanna not have a purpose. I don't care what age you are, you have to have some kind of a purpose where you're doing something that's positive, and I think he typifies that, but he
Right.
also he brought up a couple of good points, and I think a couple of these high level points we'll talk about. Number one, as Americans, we're blessed to have military filled with people like him. We just are. They protect us all around the world, and they are high quality, high energy, exceptional people, brave beyond definition. Then he talks about the importance of sticking to things. Don't give up. He could have dropped out of the SEALs. He got sick. Things didn't work out the first time around. He stuck with it and had a very successful run. You can recover from things. You can move on. Stay positive, stay working. And also give back. Never think that you don't have a purpose. If you have a mission in life, stick with it. You'll find your tribe, you'll find your purpose, but don't quit looking.
Yeah, no doubt. And he exemplifies that and you nailed it. There's and I said it during the show, guys and girls need to understand what they got. You're
Yep.
doing something either in the military or in law enforcement that 90% of this country won't do for
Right.
the life of them for any amount of money. So you're in a very select group of what you have to offer young cops, young first responders, young soldiers that you can, give them the opportunities to know and the intel that you have in your head of how to be successful, how to go about your job. Uh, and he's doing that. And like you said, it's so needed because I don't think it's done enough. It's not done enough. And you need leaders like him out there doing it.
Yep. Yep. I think he's got a long, great career ahead of him in a lot of ways. He'll touch a lot of lives positively. And it was an honor to talk to him today.
Yeah, no doubt. Uh, that's awesome. That was a good one.
Yep.
That was,
It
like I
was.
said, a feel good one. We've had some that are, rough with this year.
Right.
And to have just a feel good, just conversation. You just sit, here's what
Right.
they are, is a good show. That's a good time.
Yep. The transition message is important. And, I want to also just take an opportunity right now to thank, we're very blessed to have Fairline, University of Minnesota Fairview. We know them. Fairlineservices.com, which is our OT sponsor. They are a superb security services operation based out of the upper Midwest, national in reach. They are phenomenal, whether it be guard services, executive protection, threat assessment, risk assessment, you name it. They are the best at what they do. They're great people. Look them up if you have any need. Fairlineservices.com.
Outstanding. And one more shout out there, our merchandise,
Mhm.
justaskjan.com, jusaskjan.com. She got some great stuff. She just came out with a bottle opener with a Gold Shields bottle opener, which with the holidays coming up, everyone better get that to stocking
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was a pretty cool thing she put out there last week. So please go to JUSASKJAN, justaskjan.com for all our Gold Shields merchandise. Dan, it was a
Outstanding.
pleasure.
Yep, as always, it's a pleasure and an honor, and we thank our audience. We are nothing without those of you, and please send us your comments. TheGoldShieldShow.com. Send us what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. We want the feedback, and we appreciate each and every one of you for giving us an opportunity to come into your lives and share messages and stories with some amazing people. So thank you.
Yep, as well as all our social media stuff. Do it on, comment on YouTube, Instagram, all those. We look at it every day and answer them all. We're not one of those, those two people that, it's all right. We're gonna answer you, honestly. All right. So thank you for all that. Dan, it was a pleasure.
As
Uh
always,
Stay safe and we will see each other again soon, buddy.
see you soon, guys.
Bye everybody.